magic did you just do there? Okay.
Okay. Hello. Welcome. Welcome back. This is Emer.
Greetings.
And today we are talking about our experience as women growing up in Ireland, being psychic. That word, I think, is really scary to some people. When I say psychic, I'm not talking about like being able to read somebody else's mind. What I'm talking about is, you know, those little inklings that you get when you start thinking about somebody and then they ring you, or
when you walk into a room and you can feel what somebody else is feeling just by like looking at them or just being in their kind of energy. I guess as well, people might think of it as being empathic, which is probably similar. I don't know what differentiates that, but as well as that, just kind of how we have learned to live with that and how we've learned to protect our own energy and allow people in when it's beneficial for either one or both parties, probably both parties, and then how to also keep energies out. And it's not that anyone is like bad or harmful or we're like scared of anything. It's just more like it's just a protection thing. You have to protect your own energy so that you have enough life force to keep living and keep going about your day and stuff like that.
And knowing what's yours and what's not yours. Yeah. So I think that was probably the biggest lesson that I've had in the last couple of years, and especially growing up with this and not realising what it was walking into a room and there's loads of different people in there, and then all of a sudden I start feeling anxious and I start feeling scared or depressed or whatever it is, and not realising that's actually me tuning into the other people, and that's not my own.
Yeah, and the thing with that as well is that like it's such an important lesson to learn, because your thoughts will start to match the energy that you're vibrating at, so the frequency. So it's really serious. Like, if that's why when I was younger, like very dark thoughts, because they were my kind of narrative, would come because of like certain energies that I spent a lot of time around. And in reality, and I learned it a lot this year as well, that like once you are like, when you wake up in the morning, that's your own energy, and then as you go about your day, if your thoughts start to switch really drastically and all of a sudden you're like, this is like a really old thought pattern, like what is this doing back here, it's probably not yours. And that's probably somebody's energy that you came across that might have hit a weak spot in you, where like just a weak spot where you would have kind of followed that narrative for a while, and it comes back, but then that's when you can like release it and be like, okay, I see you, thank you very much, and then kind of purify your own energy, and then the thoughts just, they don't have power over you.
So, question: at what point did you realize that you were actually psychic, and that was what was happening, and that it wasn't your own stuff?
Yeah, that was only like this year. I'm in year 11. It's all about like, actually it was after my nanny died, because my nanny would have been very psychic and intuitive and things like that, but was not, she looked after a community of people, and I think it's that kind of thing that women do, is when they look after a lot of people, and then they kind of, not that they neglect themselves, I wouldn't have said that because she wouldn't have neglected herself, but I think maybe certain things, like she would have maybe overworked herself and stuff like that. But I realised when I was studying iridology to focus on the gifts that were passed on rather than just the curses and stuff. And when I started focusing on the gifts, I realised that there is a lineage there of psychic and being super intuitive and in tune. And then, it was a little bit of a process. So after Nanny died, that sort of grieving process, and then it led into me meeting. I kind of went out. I was in college working and also booked traveling, so I was like overwhelmed. So I went to a holistic fair naturally, and went to a reading, and ended up working with a psychic medium who was like, slow down, and then I could see my reflection in her almost as well, because we had a really similar story, and I was like, oh my god. Then I was realising, like, when I went into work or when I went out into the city, that when I was more aware of the energy, I was realising that I had this, that when my thoughts would switch, that was the big thing for me. I was like, that's not my energy. I'm literally like reading that person hates themselves, so then I'm getting that frequency, and because I used to have like a really strong self-hatred, it would bring me back. And the only reason I had a strong self-hatred was because I grew up in a place where there was very like in Ireland, where in certain areas where there's really dense energy and really like we were told, like historically, like being colonized and stuff, you're told that you're wrong and you shouldn't really exist. So yeah, so basically this year I was able to differentiate, oh my god, me being younger and having loads of mood swings and like being all over the place, really scatterbrained and stuff like that. That was a lot of just being really sensitive to energies and psychic, and being too tuned into other people and not knowing what my energy was and what my own thoughts were. But as my own thoughts and my self-belief, self-love and stuff got stronger, I knew that if I had an inkling of like self-hatred or like self-deprecating thoughts, that I was like, that's not my normal now. So that's not me, that's an energy I've taken on, that's somebody else's psyche that I've tuned into, that is now kind of like in my brain. And I'm like, and then it's really easy to let go. So what about you? When did the word psychic come into it?
After I met you, I think it was watching you kind of go through your journey of accepting that actual word.
Yeah. Because
that word for me was such a scary thing for such a long time.
Because it gets such a strong reaction.
Yes.
If you can say you're an empath to people, and everybody's like, oh my god, me too. And then you're like, I'm psychic, and they're like, she's delusional.
Yes.
But that, yeah.
So yeah, it was really accepting the word and accepting this is a part of myself, and until I actually was able to accept that, I wasn't able to put a separation between me and others and what I was experiencing from them or what I was feeling from them. I thought it was just mine.
Yeah.
I thought it was all mine, and then as soon as I was like, oh, that actually is what it is, I was able to put separation between it and realize, okay, I can give this back. I don't need to hold this.
Yeah.
I don't need to carry this.
Yeah. And we both have a lot of Cancer energy, so like
the water signs,
the water, and like that is the feeling part of it. And I think when you feel somebody's, it's hard to explain, because I know the psychic part is like, it feels very mental. It's like that's tuning into thoughts, but thoughts are just energy and frequencies. So I think when the actual words, they can be words that you use, but it's when you hear words that you don't use. And particular, some of them are really good, like if you get if you're getting downloads and that's like a word that you wouldn't use, and you're like, okay, that came from something else.
Yes.
But then if it's like somebody who, I just get a lot of the self-hatred ones because that would have been my weak spot. So if it's somebody who is having a really hard time, where they're very hard on themselves, that's when I'm like, okay, maybe I used to use those words, and maybe somebody in this room uses those words as well, but I don't use them now. Or it could be something that I've never said to myself, and then I hear it in my head and I'm like, who the fuck is that? Yeah.
For me, I think in that one it was depression. For you, the self-hatred, but for me it was depression, being around, growing up with people that had depression. And I think part of it is we actually put ourselves into the same, we'll say, consciousness as the other person, as a form of empathizing with them. And it's also like not taking from them, because we're never actually taking from somebody else, but it is to bring yourself down to their level to relate to them. And then it just kind of, if you're not aware that that is what is happening and that's what you're doing, I think you can really easily like get lost in the sauce and just assume this is mine.
I got super lost in the sauce when I was growing up. Very much so. And that's kind of this year when I was like really worn out and I didn't know what else to do. I was like, it is because I'm not spiritually or energetically clean or hygienic. Like even going into the city, that's a lot of energy that you can't go now unless you're spiritually strapped and you've all of your crystals and like your trench coat full of like black obsidian. You can't walk through without taking some of it on. So then coming home and releasing that before you go in your front door, clapping to like shuffle up the energy and stuff. It's really physical, and I think that's the part that I've learned that's been like very big for me this year, was learning that I can be like, clear my energy or whatever, but you literally need to jump up and down. You need to do a smoke cleanse or something like that. And I didn't know that growing up. And then being in a school, being in a Catholic school, being in an all-girls school, didn't know anything. I was so disconnected from any sort of faith because I lost it all. So, if you were speaking to your younger self now, let's say, like 13-year-old Emer, what would you tell her? 13-year-old Emer. Yeah. Where was she? She was in probably like second year. Oh God. What would I tell her?
In regard to that you are tuned into other people and I guess how to protect yourself or how to be aware of it.
So she was left out a lot. That's what happened to me in that time of my life. I think I would tell her she would think I was crazy. She would think I was black because she didn't have any inkling of energy. So if I came and I was like, you're psychic, what you're feeling isn't yours, I got this, she'd be like, who's this crazy lady? All I could tell her is that I love her so much, and that her family loves her so much, and they don't exactly know how to show it the way she can receive it, but they care about you so much, they love you so much, you are a part of that family, and you get all of their good stuff, you're so looked after, and I know it really hurts. That's what I would say. I'd say, I know you're really hurt a lot of the time, but and I know people can't see that you're hurting, but that is really valid, and the way that you feel and the excruciating pain that you feel emotionally, it's not all of yours, and you're a very empathetic person, so you want to take pain from other people and make them feel better, but at the time I didn't know how to transmute that pain, so I guess I would tell her to put her feet in the grass and to just imagine all of the energy from that day just going down into the earth and like releasing it and giving it back to the earth, and that she could always come to me for a hug, come to mommy for a hug, and that you will open up in time and everybody's gonna get it that loves you. Aww, that's nice. What about you? What would you say to your 13-year-old self who's feeling it all?
I'd tell her, you're not crazy.
Yeah.
You're not crazy, because I definitely felt that way. I think being so sensitive, and especially when you're going through puberty,
Oh, the hormones.
and you're surrounded by other kids that don't really know what's happening, and they're also going through puberty. Yeah, that you're not crazy, and just to stay in your own lane, stay in your own energy, because she was really trying to figure out, like, my mind is so active.
You're so inquisitive.
Yes, so she was
And curious.
always trying to understand, and I guess she kind of knew that there was more to what meets the eye going on, because I could always feel other people, how they were feeling, but I thought it was all my own, and I was like, why do I always feel so crazy being around other people? When I'm by myself in my bedroom, I was fine, I was centered, but as soon as I would walk into a room with other people, it was just like this mess of emotion in my brain. And then, because I'm always trying to figure stuff out, not so much anymore, but back then definitely, I guess I would just tell her, it's not yours. It's not yours, and you don't have to take it on. Because taking on other people's problems as well was something I was massively doing as a child. I guess with coming from a traumatic childhood, there was definitely a savior complex going on. So as soon as I would feel someone else was not okay, then I would immediately try and rush in to fix that for them. So just to tell her, you don't need to do that, because that got me in so much trouble. And I mean, I wouldn't change it because it got me to where I am now. But just that you don't need to fix everything for everybody else. And being so tuned into other people, that's just instantly what you want to do. You want to go and make them feel better so you can feel better.
It's like cancer as well.
Yes.
You're like, let me be your mom.
Yes.
And
let
then
me help.
you get when they're like, I feel better now, and you're like, I help them feel better, and did you, because I used to do that as well, and my thing, when I looked back in the way that I've reflected on it, was that I would do this in relationships and friendships and stuff like that. I would always kind of attract people that needed probably help and needed someone else as well. But I did it as well to run away from my own life. Like, I couldn't be alone when I was younger. And like, I had boyfriends that I literally took on their personality as well, and I would like be friends with their friends and stuff like that. Like, I used to escape my own life all the time and change things up and like have different friends. Like, there were certain friends that I had all along the way, but different friend groups and stuff like that, because I was like, whoever needs me the most, I will be there for them, and I would abandon my own life and abandon myself so much. I abandoned myself so much because I kind of felt like I was a lost cause, because I had no idea that I was taking on other people's energies. I had no idea that, like, growing up around depression was having such an effect on me as well. And did you escape from yourself?
Oh, did I? What? So I think I started drinking when I was 14. Yeah, this conversation.
This is
because I find it, especially with people that are like highly sensitive, you can almost tell by the way people operate in the world, if they're in the pub all the time, if they're smoking weed all the time. It's because they're so sensitive, and I won't say it's a hard world to be in, but if you don't have the awareness of what's happening, it's hard, and we don't know. Nobody teaches us how to protect our energy. Nobody teaches us, this is yours, that's theirs. You don't need to cross the barrier. To be comfortable being around other people, I started drinking like hardcore vodka when I was 14 every weekend, just to be able to withstand actually being around other people without feeling like there's something wrong with me. that I can't stand here and have a conversation with a group of people without needing to get drunk.
Yeah.
And to completely, because when you're drinking, when you're smoking, it dampens the senses.
Yeah.
And it brings you kind of into your own center. But it doesn't. It brings you away from
You're
your
almost
center.
more scattered, so you can't actually, because it's the psychic thing. It's dampening out the psychic thing. You actually can't tune into other people. You can't even tune into yourself because you're just like, you're literally just blown out. Yeah, the drinking and the drugs, definitely a sign of a psychic.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
Yeah. That's a lot about psychic stuff. Is there anything else that's coming up for you about that?
Psychedelics are what brought me back.
Oh yeah, because we had very different journeys about how we got to where we are now. You want to go for it? Tell me yours.
So I overdid alcohol, drugs, like real bad, up until I was 19, 20.
Not condoning this, by the way.
Not condoning.
We're reflecting, being like, oh, not a good thing to do.
No, I wouldn't recommend.
No, highly not.
So yeah, but then I found psychedelics, mushrooms, and that kind of brought things into perspective, because like the whole way throughout there was no guidance, there was no outside guidance, it was just following kind of inklings that I didn't realise were inklings.
Yes.
So picking mushrooms, and then there was one journey, the heroic dose. It was the 5 gram mushroom trip that I did, and it showed me everything I knew existed outside of this reality. It brought me back into myself. It brought back the connection with the inner child, because the inner child is so psychic. She used to be up all night in her room, like talking to all these different beings, and that was just something, even though I kind of knew that all throughout my teen years, it was something I put to the back of my mind, because I was like, that couldn't be real. And the world just kind of stomps it out of you. Pay attention, get out of your imagination.
They're always
None of
like,
that's
kids
real.
have such great imagination, and you're like, that is more real than like what you grow up, you turn into. You're way more connected. Yeah.
So yeah, that journey made me realize a lot about myself and about what I've been doing. And that was kind of the start of, like, during that journey I got the guidance to leave the house I was living in, stop hanging out with people I was hanging out with, get out of that environment, change up everything. So I didn't know what was happening or why I was doing that, but I knew I had to just kind of follow that. And yeah, it was really the mushrooms just pulled me back into myself. The next time after that I took them, that was kind of when I realised, oh, maybe there's a lot more to this than I actually know. Because I had been very much in the 3D reality, like scientific materialism. If you could prove something to me, I would put you down. Like, it was so embarrassing.
You idiot!
Yeah, like, really, just like the most arrogant. And when I meet people like that now, I'm like,
I know. When you see yourself, when you get reflection of like a past version of you, it's like, you can't, like, I have compassion, and then like if I spend too much time around that, I'm kind of like, it's because you change from that. So you're like, you meet someone and you're like, you're gonna change from this, and then you're not, and you're kind of like, okay, cool. Because everyone's on their own journey, and just because they don't do it then doesn't mean they're not going to do it anyway. But like, it's funny. It always gets mirrored back at you once you've moved out of it. I think.
So yeah, that was it. It was psychedelics, and then like getting some training. I got shamanically trained, which was giving me the awareness of energy.
Yeah.
And how, like, we think everything is matter, but everything all the matter is made up of energy and how easily manipulated energy can be. And then that was kind of, I guess what started me getting serious about all of this and actually deepening into wanting to learn more about the esoteric and energy and the more unseen,
the real world.
The real world. The real world. Yeah. And you?
Yeah, very different.
Yeah.
Well, like, it's so, I find it funny because we're so similar, but we definitely went different ways, because I went down the more psychological route, mental route, because I ended up in A&E one night, and then I ended up in a psychiatric hospital. So that's where my healing began. Was like, it was great because I wasn't able to verbalize how low I was. I didn't really know what mental health was. I just knew that I didn't feel good. I didn't want to be here, and I genuinely believed I was a burden on everybody. Like really did, which is mind-boggling to me to think back on that now, because it was a true belief. And that's why I used to get, and I still do, get annoyed, or just it sparks something in me when somebody's like, oh my god, they're such an attention seeker, or they're seeking validation. I'm like, well, yeah, everybody needs validation.
We need it.
And if you're not able to give it to yourself, you're going to outsource and look for it. So because somebody genuinely believes that they're an issue and that they're a burden and that nobody should help them and stuff like that. So that's just a million miles away from where my mindset is now. But yeah, so I was in a psychiatric unit for a while. It was great because my family knew where I was then. My friends knew where I was. I lost a few friends after that because they couldn't cope with that. They didn't understand, and that really hurt. But all in all, it was good because I was like, everybody knows where I'm at. I got a diagnosis, like a mental personality disorder diagnosis, and it served me well at the time because I was like, now I'm not broken, it's just this borderline personality disorder thing, I just have something. But then I leaned into that for a little while because the symptoms were there. I knew how to then deal with it because I had a list of things that was like, well, if this is a symptom, this is how you kind of reverse that or deal with that. I've moved away from that a little bit now because I'm like, well, now that I know I'm psychic, it kind of brings another level to it. So then I started therapy, and I wanted to help myself. So I wanted to get better, so I did a lot of research on this disorder, and then I learned a lot about it. I started embracing and accepting myself and caring about myself. I vowed I'd never hurt my body again, and I wanted to live. So that was a choice for me. I was like, okay, now I want to live, so I'm choosing life. So what does somebody who wants to live do? And actually, because being psychic as well, being a child and having incredibly clear vision, mental vision, that all shut off when I was a teenager, and when because it does anyway when you're drinking and doing drugs, but even from a belief point of view, I had no future in mind. So then when I decided to choose life, I used to have to do the thing where you're like, okay, visualize an apple, and I'd be there and I'd be like, what does an apple look like? I'm okay, it's red and it's circle, but it's not exactly circle, that kind of stuff. So that was a journey over a couple of years. Then the big C happened, and then I was smoking a lot of weed. And I was watching, and it wasn't just I was smoking weed, I was watching sunsets and leaning into creativity again, because there was no creativity or any sort of expression. So I was literally colouring, drawing pictures, watching sunsets and spending a lot of time alone. And then I started learning about astrology and chakras, and then my whole universe just opened. I was like, oh, this makes a lot of sense. And then I had a dark night of the soul where I was really depressed because I was like, my family think I'm crazy and I'm like playing with cards on the lawn. My dad thinks I'm going to become a nun.
My life is a lie.
My whole life is a lie.
Yeah.
And I need to tell everyone.
Oh,
and
yeah.
And I was like, and Jesus went away, and then he came back when he was 33, because 33 is a spiritual number and a master number, blah, 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 like, mad.
Yeah.
And then, so I would say of the plant medicine world, weed really helped me because it opened my mind a lot. And I've had my addiction with weed as well, so I've had to like balance that, and I developed a lot more of a respectful relationship with her. But then to get here where I am now, I think I started studying herbal medicine, and as you know, and I learned about. I knew everything was energy, but I didn't have a word for it because I knew, like in Chinese medicine and Ayurvedic, like those ancient healing traditions, it's based on energy. But then when I started my course and I learned about the history of medicine and how allopathic medicine is based on atomism and then natural healing is based on vitalism, that like at the most subatomic level, like within the atom where all the quarks are, like quarks are energy. So at the most subatomic level we are energy. And then I was like, duh. So like where biologists used to stay away from quantum physics because they were like, it's not my alley, not my thing. It's Bruce Lipton is a cell biologist, and he would have said that he stayed away from it because quantum physics is like, now you see it, now you don't. And they were like, no, we need to see it. We need to look at a microscope and see it. Basically he leaned into that, and like, yeah, vitalism is a thing, learned about that, and yeah, that's kind of how I got here. So I took psychological mental route to get here. And then like just seeing how generational trauma manifests in the physical body, in like ailments and cancers and disease and stuff like that, that's where it really clicked with me.
Big question.
Okay. I just spoke for like 20 hours.
I have a couple of things to come back to if I remember, but why do you think we're here?
Let me tell you. Oh, this is gonna get me. No, it's not, because this is a very common like theory in the spiritual realm, but like if my cousins see this, they're gonna be like, what the fuck? I think we're here. I do think that Earth is a school. Yeah, okay, I'll go with that part. I think Earth... Oh, I love your socks. They're so cute.
My little ladies.
Ladies. I think that Earth is a school, and I think that souls like to evolve, because that's all we know how to do. I think that life just keeps on lifing, and so I think that right now Earth is in a bit of a state, let's be honest. But I think that I think light is winning. I think everything is already played out, but we're just experiencing it now. And so I think certain souls are here to just do what we're doing. Fuck shit up in a good way. Just like fuck up the dark and integrate it into light, like that kind of stuff. Just to look after Earth the way it was intended. I do think there's a lot of spiritual warfare that has happened. I think that if humans desire so much control, like that comes from, I think there's like almost a Russian doll effect kind of thing, where it's like, well, where did humans learn this from? You know? It's not just, maybe it is, I don't know, like I'm not I'm not a scientist. Maybe it's just human nature that wants to control, but I don't think so. I think that there's like entities and stuff like that desire control because we're all energy. So if you got a big planet that you could suck energy from, you'd do that. Some people would do that. But I think there's a lot of love and light beings that understand that autonomy and sovereignty is really important, and that's the way it should be, because love is life-giving, and life wants to live. So I think I can't say why we're all here. I think that I am here to I think my soul has chosen evolution. I think my soul's here to help. And it chose certain things to happen in a few lifetimes, maybe hundreds, maybe 4, I don't know, thousands, to carry out a certain lives so that there would be change on the planet. Because even if you're just one person and even if you're in a hut in the woods, you're having an effect on the whole world. Because we're all energy, we're all connected in the ether. So yeah. What do you think we're here?
Yeah, pretty similar. It's like a school.
Yeah. Very dense school.
A very dense school. I think we could be having a lot more fun here.
Yeah.
I think we could be having a whole lot more fun. But because it's been so heavy and dark here for such a long time, that is something we're moving through. And as you say, there are those of us that came specifically to bring light, to heal, to do the shadow work. And shadow work is basically the understanding that I am everything, including and especially the things I don't like. So whatever it is that you hate in other people, that's present in you, and if you keep fighting against that, you're keeping it alive.
Yeah.
You're keeping it going. So we have to accept and embrace every single dark part of ourselves. And if we don't do that, if we're not willing to look at the darkness, and if we're not willing to embrace it and to love it, because all if you look at any, we'll say dark act, negative act, it's coming from a place of hurt. It's coming from somebody who didn't get the love that they needed when they were a kid. And there's whole systems set up because of a hurt child who didn't get the love that they needed. So
they grew up and just fucked up the whole
yeah. So I mean, we have to. Oh, that's okay. 39. That's okay. So we have to look at all the dark parts, and we have to love them. We have to love the shit out of them. And each one of us gets different dark parts. Now, me and Emer both have Chiron in Scorpio, which is a very dark, dense pattern to be dealing with. But that means that, so the themes that go along with Scorpio are often to do with sex abuse and like institutions, dark religious institutions.
Scorpio rules, like, even on a physical level, it literally rules the bowels and like
the shit,
the sex organs, I believe. Because it is death and rebirth. So if you can imagine death being what we excrete from our body, and birth being like creation in our body as well. So it's like that kind of cycle. So you can imagine the themes that go along with that are pretty heavy. It's intense. It's just, it's the shadows. Like Scorpio likes to go into the shadow and come back out. Do things.
Yeah.
Healing. It's a huge healing energy.
So yeah, we all have our individual darkness. So like with that, this might sound strange, but something I had to accept and love was pedophiles. Because
we're getting into it.
We're doing it. Because for such a long time, I really hated them.
Of course, because that's the natural thing.
Yes, and I fucking despised it. Wanted to like do bad things to bad people.
Yep.
And I think, I don't know, was it a mushroom ceremony or what it was? I think it was just shadow work that I was doing one night when I realised that lives inside of me. And that was a hurt child that was sexually abused as a child and then continued that pattern. So if I'm to keep hating that, if I'm to keep putting negative energy toward that thing, it keeps it going. So I had to accept and love the part of myself that is, well,
that is capable.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, I think the most difficult, and it sounds like we're not out here actually going up and saying I love you to
I
these
forgive
people,
you.
you know, it's very private for me anyway, very private, it's very energetic, and it's just, it's also maybe the symbol of it, of being like even that human deserves love. And so many people will freak out over this because they'll be like, how the fuck could you say that?
How dare you?
How dare you? Because it is probably one of the most disgusting acts on this planet as of date. But the thing is, like you said, that came from hurt. And it is sick and it's twisted, but like, if you do believe that we all come from source energy, and that like, that we're, the way I see it is like, do you know the prism of light? So you shine white light through prism, there's fractals of different light. If I'm green and you're yellow, and I'm like, I don't like you, and I hate you very much, when you go back, you're just hating yourself, because you're source, even though it's a different colour. And even though you did a bad act, not you, even though the bad act was done by this person, this man or woman, it's still you. And it's not me or Ailish, it's the energy within us. And it's just that that's how certain things manifest. We have been in thousands of years of really dark hurt, control, power over sort of dynamics on this planet. That's a huge thing, is power over and control. And people try to control things, and they're doing it unconsciously as well. So yeah, and I think that one of the most difficult things, but one of the most powerful things you can ever do, is to love someone who hurt you. And like, that comes like the Chiron and Scorpio experiencing like personally like sexual abuse and like rape. I can't hate that person forever, because all that's doing is actually giving energy to that, and it's very negative energy. No, I'm not going to call him up and tell him I love him, because fuck that shit. But I have forgiven him, and not for him, for me. Yeah. And that's the same concept. Yeah. And you don't ever have to contact these people, because you're not supposed. Don't talk to your abusers. That is not what we're saying. No. But it's like, for yourself, there's so much power in sitting down and just, you know, feeling into yourself and allowing yourself to feel everything and just send love out there, because I have found that to be extremely healing. I think it is.
And yeah, if you're continuing to hold resentment against somebody that hurt you, it's hurting you. It's not hurting them. Even though it kind of is hurting them, you're hurting yourself. But if you're harboring these negative feelings towards somebody else, you're the only one that's suffering in that instance. So yeah, accepting and loving the shadows. And the more we can do that, the deeper into our own darkness we can go, the higher into the light we can go, the more light we can bring in. So yeah, that was a very long answer to the question, but it's a school. It's about forgiveness. We're clearing lots of karma from many, many, many years of really fucked up stuff. But the plus side of that is the more we can clear it, the more fun we can have.
I've started having so much more fun.
Yes.
Literally, and because when you realize the power, and when you experience the power of your mind, your perspective being your whole reality, you get to have fun with it. Because like, something really awful could happen that like just fucks up your day, But if you look at that almost as if it's like a reality TV show and you're like, oh, what are they going to do? Like, no, not like really, really awful, but like something can happen that might just piss you off, and then you could be in a negative energy for the rest of the day, and then you experience more things that piss you off or that like upset your day. If you actually experience that, say it's something minor, like people around you are like bitching about someone else and you're just not of that vibe, and you're just kind of like, oh, that's really annoying, and like it just like it could bring you down. But if you look at that and be like, isn't it great that we get to connect with each other, and like isn't it so nice that people get to bond, even though you don't need to like engage in it and you don't need to let it get you down. It's just like, see it in a different perspective. Be like, those people had a lovely conversation and they bonded and they felt really good over that. Then you can just like go about your day and just be like, just seeing things in a different light, and it takes practice and
lots of practice,
and we all like have bad days. Then you just move on. Like, but yeah, I've been having a lot of more fun. And that's like hopefully just where we're going as this journey continues. Like, man, we're gonna have such a good life.
We're having such a good life.
But yeah, a lot of fun, and like in like our like generations from now, where as we keep going the way we're going, Earth is going to be, it's going to be like heaven on earth. It'll be so much fun, so much love and joy, and just like
peace and happiness. Peace. And something that you said there, the perspective switch. Something that changed my life was something quote unquote negative was to happen to me. Instead of looking at it as something just happened to me, it's, I've put this obstacle in my path for a reason. What am I going to learn from this?
Yeah.
What can I learn from this? What is this trying to teach me? And I think that's small little shift, it just changes absolutely everything, because then instead of things happening to you, you're experiencing it for a good reason. And one might call that delusional optimism. Delusional optimism. But I mean, if you can choose to believe anything, why not go for the best beliefs that everything is always working out in my favor? And once I started looking at life through that lens, everything is always working out in my favor. Yeah.
That's a huge affirmation. If you take one thing from this video, everything is always working out in my favor. Yeah. Yeah. So learning, and like when you view life as a school and view like this world as a school, humans are naturally inquisitive. And even though I stopped asking questions for years because I was very inquisitive as a child, and I think somewhere along the way it was kind of like, stop asking questions. And it mightn't have even been like, it could have been an exhausted teacher or something like that. Like, I'm not blaming wherever I got that, but the way I perceived it, because I was super sensitive and all of that, was I must not ask questions. But we are naturally inquisitive, and I think that it makes it more fun when that thing happens in your life. Like, yeah, there's been a few times where I've been like trying to get away from a situation and it keeps coming back, and I'm like, okay, there's clearly something here I have to learn. And they're like, what is it? And then it makes it more fun, because then you discover it and you can move, and then it's very satisfying. I find healing very satisfying, or just learning in general in this good old school.
It's a little adventure. Asking questions. And I mean, if you don't ask the right questions, you're never going to get the answers. If you ask a question, you are bound to get the answer. Whatever the question might be, ask it out loud and keep consciously thinking about the question. You will get the answer for whatever it is. It's like choose your own adventure. What question do I want to ask? What do I want to find out about? And then surely enough, you will receive the answer. Sometimes instantaneously. I mean, we're getting so much guidance and symbolism all the time. But if you're not looking for it, you're gonna miss it. You're not gonna see it.
Yeah, and like, you don't need to put pressure on yourself either. It's like, once you ask the question, Your soul knows what it's doing, so you don't need to be like, oh, I must remember this and I must like find the answer. It's like, ask the question and then do yoga or sit outside and listen to the wind, and then things just come. I think that's an important part of it as well. It's like you ask the question and then you wait for the answer. You don't necessarily, you search for answers in some regard, but also you don't need to do an awful lot.
It'll come.
Yeah, and I think things like meditation and yoga, I think people are kind of a little bit, some people are like, I could never do meditation because I could never sit there, whatever. Meditation can be walking outside. It's a lot to do with listening. You're not trying to actually like empty your mind and have no thoughts. It's like listening to, say, your breath, or watching a candle. And you're watching the candle and then maybe your thoughts start going, and it's like, okay, where did that come from? And it's kind of like, it's like traveling with them. And then, yeah, it just comes to you.
Just observing what comes up.
Yeah.
And yeah, one of my biggest lessons in the last couple of years has been everything is way more simple than we think it is.
Yeah.
It's way more simple. It nearly always comes back to the simplest answer and the simplest solution.
Path of least resistance.
Yes, and literally just tuning into the feminine and saying, I trust that the answer is going to come. I trust the solution is going to reveal itself. It's when we're constantly thinking about it, we're constantly worrying about something. That's when you will drive yourself insane, and it prolongs whatever the issue is or whatever the question is. It pushes it out. Whereas if you can accept it as it is, say, I'm expecting the answer to come to me, and then drop it, then it's like, will be delivered to you on a silver platter.
Exactly.
Here you go.
And that also takes practice, because
Yes.
I think we've grown up in a world where you have to go out and you have to work and you have to find things and you always have to be on the go. So the act of receiving and just allowing things to come to you is practice, because it's not what we're used to. It comes natural to us, but we've been trained very much to we've grew up and we've created a very masculine world where we are very action orientated and we have to do and go, and then when you sit down and just let it come to you, you're just like, this is suspiciously easy.
Don't trust this. It can't be that easy, can it?
But it is.
Yeah, it is. It's a long journey of just trust and acceptance.
Yeah.
And we've, as you say, we've been trained out of that.
Like, and not just we have, like our ancestors have as well. So it's not like, and that's why I think at this time there's a lot of souls here right now that were like, it's time to integrate all of the darkness. And by that I mean doing the shadow work and loving the most gruesome parts of this world and this life and humanity, because that's how we integrate everything into the light. Like bringing things into the light, like naturally when you bring something into the light you can see it. So are you going to push it back into the dark and be like, I can't see that, I don't want to see that, I'm not looking, like it's still there, it's still existing, it's still an energy. Bring it to the light. I love you, come here. And then you go you're just like more whole.
Yes. And it's just acceptance. And I mean, if you ever then need to access that part, you have no shame around it, so it's easily accessed once you have accepted this thing that I thought was horrible and that I hated. It's a part of me. It's as much of a part of me as a mushroom is a part of a field. And if we love and we accept that it's there, if you ever need to actually access it for any reason, you can easily do so in a healthy manner, instead of it poking its head out when you're in a relationship or like, at the worst times possible. Because if we are pushing something away, we're not willing to accept that it's part of us, it's still coming out. It's coming out as passive aggressiveness, or it's coming out as a fight with your spouse or whatever it is. So the easier option is to accept and to love it. This is fair to me. And then you don't get any sneak attacks.
Yeah. But the sneak attacks are how it comes up. That's the game. That's the how you learn. Is when you say the example of getting into a relationship, because a lot of us have like relationship trauma. You get into a relationship, something ugly pops its head up, you break up the relationship and you leave. That's like not dealing with it. So that cycle's going to continue. And I know we have said it's really easy. It is. The process of it is when you go through it a lot, but it still hurts. You still have to go through the emotions, and that's not easy.
No, and that can be
like horrendous.
Yeah.
And like that's when, but also go easy on yourself.
Yeah.
If you do that, if something pops out, you don't want to see it, you self-sabotage, go easy, go gentle, because it's if you're here right now, you're a brave soul. So you have the strength in you to deal with it, but it's like you will at the right time. And when you do, it's that the feeling it is the hard part, because the reason it's been so dark and dense here is because like it's nasty things have been happening. So the things that we're processing are naturally going to feel not nice. But yeah, then it's like important to have like good friends and good support systems that when you do feel those things, you can reach out and just be seen, be held. The containing the emotions, not squishing them, but containing them and saying like, you're safe here to feel these things. Nothing bad is going to happen to you. And that's how you move through those kind of things. Yeah.
And you get lighter and lighter.
Yeah, and then it's more fun, because if you're not getting triggered all the time and you're not feeling bad about yourself, feeling bad about things all the time, you have more fun and you are more light, and you attract then experiences that are just, and people who are wonderful,
joyful.
Like you. Yeah. We didn't really talk about being a woman. Is that like, will we do that today? Will we do that in this? Or is that another thing altogether?
I think that's another thing altogether.
Yeah, I think this will be 4 hours long.
That will be a full topic.
Yeah.
But I did want to touch on, you said about BPD earlier.
Oh yeah.
The correlation between the mental illnesses and just being psychic. So schizophrenia, let's take it back maybe to
what
the correlation between being psychic, neurodivergence, how we have all these, we'll say, medical terms for things that are actually just you're more in tune with the field than other people are.
Yeah. They did, like, say, for example, BPD. That originally was thought to be schizophrenia. And then it was called borderline personality disorder because the borderline was between neurotic and psychotic. So, just wanted to say that. But as well as, like, the mental health being, like, energy being the beginning of that, it's the same with physical health. I think we're just learning so much that like everything starts with energy.
Yep.
So the likes of neurodivergencies, my belief about my story is that I've had ADHD from a very young age, and that is just a high level of sensitivity in this world where it's not catered for, where you're told to sit down, focus on one thing, which is like really not natural. Basically, our schools were to train factory workers and just workers. But then for me, the combination of symptoms that makes up BPD was being so sensitive, and then being so sensitive to energies and being around quite dense energies and not knowing how to do the processing that we just spoke about. And then what I did was I turned it all inward, and I would hurt myself, and I would believe that I thought everybody else's mood in the whole room was my fault, So I thought that if my mother was upset that I did that, even though it could have been she had like an argument with her mother or her husband or something like that, and it had nothing to do with me, but that was my sense of control because I knew I could feel it, and I was like, so that must be me. I didn't understand at all, but yeah, that would have been my connection with BPD. I found as well, because BPD is associated with mood swings, and I was constantly surrounded by like so many people, like in school and stuff like that. That was other energies coming in and affecting my mood. Like my mood would have been my expression of my how I was feeling, but how I was feeling was not necessarily mine. And sometimes it was, and sometimes it was reactions to like things that were happening around me, but a lot of the time, like the severe drops in mood would have been like I could have literally went into another room where somebody was feeling really bad, and I would have caught onto that and got the thoughts and then went and then blamed myself and got really fed up with myself and stuff like that. What's your experience?
I'm gonna make a map.
Okay.
At some point, it's
I've
in my head.
It's
this. So much.
I've tried to do this like years ago. My god, with astrology as well.
With astrology, with human design, all of it, because of all the manifesting generators I know, they all have ADHD. And like the way I see ADHD is we just operate at a different level. With somebody who's, we'll say, neurotypical, they can sit down and they can focus on one task. I cannot do that. It doesn't mean they're better or I'm better, but it means I'm going to do 25 things in the space of 10 minutes, where they're going to do one thing in the space of 10 minutes. They're going to do their task really well in the space of 10 minutes. I might do some of the 25 things really well, but I might not do some of the 25 things really well.
Or at all.
It's just different operating systems. And like the material world has really tried to put some sort of label onto it, and now it's helpful for having conversations with people. Sometimes I might tell certain types of people that I have ADHD, so they have a reference of, I guess an easier time speaking with me, because I'm going 1,000,000 miles per hour, whereas they might only be going, 5 miles per hour. And if I can say I have ADHD, then they feel more comfortable in dealing with me. But I'm like 100% certain, if I was to go to a doctor today, to a psychologist, and if I was to tell them about the way my mind works and tell them about the way I operate in the world, they would be like, ADHD, BPD, autism, like putting you into a box. So the correlation between those who are highly sensitive and these mental health issues, I don't think they're issues, but that's depending on, I guess, how you've experienced them in your own life, and the lens that somebody else has given you to look at them through. Because if I went to a doctor and they said, you have BPD, this is really hard for you, and do you need help with that? That's now given me a dark lens to look at this thing through. But because I haven't gone to get a diagnosis for any of these things, I look at it through my own lens. And I think so many people have been given diagnoses that have really skewed their vision of themselves. Like, I know so many people that have been given a diagnosis, and then it fucks with their self-image. It completely changes who they think they are in their own minds. And as I was saying earlier, it's always the simpler option. You just have a different operating system. But I can't speak for everybody. That's the way.
I have a slightly different view on it. I do, like, that saved my life. Getting psychiatric help saved my life. If I had if I had maybe went your route, I don't know if I would have ended up the same. Maybe I would have, but like, I think if you get a diagnosis, like, because it's not that they're not real, it's just that that's what they are learning. Somebody goes into mental health to help other people. They want to learn about mental health because mental health is real, and just because the basis is still energy, for me, it doesn't negate the labels. However, with sexuality, with mental health, with physicality, I have moved away from putting myself into boxes because I used to search for different boxes to put myself in to understand myself.
Yes.
But for me, it was astrology that where I was able to be like, oh, there is so much more going on. And I think because mental health followed our allopathic medicine of being very reductionist, into like, okay, well this we'll take everything away and we'll like pinpoint what's wrong with you. I think when you include energy, it's holistic. So getting a diagnosis of BPD helped me for about 2 years, and then I was like, then I realized when I started learning about affirmations and identifying with things that I was like, oh, I'm identifying with BPD, so I don't think I'll ever move past BPD. So it was the coming away from that. And then I told like a sibling of mine that I don't identify with BPD anymore, and she was like, like she got really angry at me because she thought I was losing my mind.
Yeah.
And then like I had to go through that as well, but like that's all just a part of the process. So I think that like say now, because I'm studying herbal medicine, I will see that somebody like, you know, if somebody has kidney issues, if you go to some doctor, they'll say your kidneys are really bad, and this is bad, and this is bad, and this is bad. But like what I have learned is that energetically, it's like, okay, there's a lot of creative energy there. There's a lot of potential for like incredible creative gift, and it's just about switching the lens, and like that's the energetics of it. So as if energetics, I'll switch that up actually and say that psychic energy, because I suppressed and generations before me suppressed that energy of being psychic, we have mental health issues in our family. That would be like a kind of thing that is just there. So it's just that everything's happening. Everything's happening at the same time. And I do think it does skew your self-image, but I think it's moving past the identifying with just that mental issue. And I do think the language and everything fucked it up as well. It's like mental illness. Is it illness? Maybe, because it's like it's dis-ease. It's not like ease, if that makes sense. If you put it alongside physical illness, you're like, yeah, because you're not well. But it's like, it's just changing the language. I think we focus loads on the negative when it comes to health and mental health, when really we should be putting more of a positive thing. So like, I have incredible intuition, and rather than saying that I've suppressed my intuition and there's like, you know, issues in my body now because of that energy, it's like, no, I have a really good intuition, and when I use it, I'm really powerful. Yeah.
It goes so deep because like I agree with everything you said.
Yeah.
We're running out of juice. If
I'm not saved if it turns off.
No, so we'll have to wrap it up in the next 5 minutes.
Okay.
But if we were still living in tribes, we all had, you know, the shaman of the community.
Elders.
If those gifts were nurtured, we would never be like, that's
illness.
This illness, that's that illness, that's this illness. It would be like, oh, they have this beautiful gift. And they never would have felt shame around it, and they never would have felt shamed for being different to the other people. It would have been nurtured and built up in them. And the reason it becomes disease, in my opinion, is because of the other people around you telling you that's not normal.
Because they don't know.
They don't understand. So it goes so deep. I hope I didn't offend anybody in what I said. I'm not trying to dismiss any of those
it's your experience.
Mental illnesses. But I just think if things were different, and when they are different in the future, it's not going to be seen as a disease or an illness.
Absolutely.
It's going to be something entirely different.
Not everybody, but I'd say the majority of people in psychiatric wards are just like really psychic.
Super
and like
psychic.
really tuned in. But the thing is, it is changing, and like we will be the elders that will spot it, and it's happening already. Like there's like I have a brilliant friend who is a primary school teacher, and although she may not see the psychic and that kind of stuff, she's like, that child is ADHD, and it could be a girl daydreaming. Like she is already more in tune than, do you know the way like you'd see it in our time and the time before, it would be like a lad running around a classroom.
Yes.
It was all based on like the boys. But like she sees the really subtle symptoms of like ADHD and autism and stuff. So like, and she's a primary school teacher, and she's getting these earmarks, so they're going to have an easier life. And as that keeps going on, like, life is just going to get easier for people because we will nurture when we see it. Because we're cancers, and that's what we do.
That's what we do. Yeah.
Any closing thoughts?
We said so much.
Yeah, we did. I'm actually dizzy.
Yeah. We said a lot.
I can't wait to have more tea and lots of pee.
I'll be interested to watch it back. So, just touching back on the psychic thing, as soon as I press record, I can hear people in my head. Does that happen to you?
I can
feel people watching, and I can hear it feels like moths flapping in my ears. And anytime I go to get energy work, or anytime someone who's also psychic is in my field, this thing starts happening.
I actually see it. I don't hear it as much, but I see, like, that's why I feel dizzy, because my eyes have just been like blurry, but I've been seeing all of the energies, like the orbs and stuff.
Yeah. So I think that's probably it.
Yeah, and I think I hope that this has been at least entertaining.
Yeah.
And potentially that you feel, if you are psychic, if you're a little noob, like we have been, that you feel less alone, and that, you know, you can reach out to either of us and have a chat with us. More than welcome. And yeah, just I hope that this is beneficial for people, and that I hope you're having a lovely time. Sending lots of love to everybody watching this. You see that Care Bear meme where they're like in their hearts are like they're like sending loads of love.
Okay, so